Israel now is throwing a twin shot, both at Hamas and Turkey at the same time. Why? Because according to them, they just thwarted a plan to assassinate Itamar Ben-Gvir that was carried out by Hamas, operated and run from Turkey, because the command that is inside Turkey is in charge of the Hamas-run group from the West Bank that tried to assassinate Ben-Gvir with an explosive drone. Israel's Shin Bet security services announced the arrest of Hamas cell in Hebron, West Bank, run from Turkey and planning to assassinate National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir with explosive-laden drones. The story makes sense in terms of possibility. So theoretically, it's possible. There are certain Hamas figures inside of Turkey that Israel claims to carry out operations or run certain operations. One of them was previously Saleh al-Aruri, who later moved to Lebanon, and then Israel assassinated him in Lebanon. There could be other groups there inside of Turkey, and Israel is trying to portray now Turkey as a country that is supporting, terrorism against it. Now, Itamar Ben-Gvir, it's not the first time that someone tried to assassinate him. There were many assassination attempts against Itamar Ben-Gvir, and his wife the other day was describing a situation where people were monitoring even her son and their movements in certain parts so that they could get to their father. So the threat to assassinate Itamar Ben-Gvir is real. But the fact that Israel is trying to push Turkey into this is an attempt coming from Israel to increase the tensions with Turkey. Israel is always trying to show other countries in a negative way. Although, if Turkey went and armed the Palestinian resistance now, the majority of the world would support them. The people are demanding their governments and authorities to support the Palestinian resistance, not to support Israel, the genocidal entity. But, of course, Turkey is limited to what they do in terms of the Palestinian resistance. However, they do have senior figures, the leaders of the resistance who are in the Turkish parliament. They get invited. Turkey is a participant in all of the talks that are happening, despite their non-decisive measures, at least to say the least, against Israel, and them saying that, we might actually go on a war with them, and they haven't gone to war with them. But Israel is, of course, trying to raise tensions with everyone, regardless, like even with Jordan, that didn't even do a thing to harm Israel. Jordan that intercepted Iranian missiles. Now they're saying that Jordan is part of the East Bank. And this is where some of these governments and countries don't really realize what Israel is about, and they aren't really taking the decisive measures that are required against the genocidal entity. This is proving, though, that Israel does have bigger plans for the region, although they're failing in Gaza. And most of these plans, by the way, Israel tries to push them more than it actually can implement, but they are genuine plans. They are talking about them, and they will be getting support. They'll be getting support from the United States. They'll be getting support from other countries too. Don't forget, Donald Trump called Israel a very tiny state. He said, if you look at the map, you'll see how small they are. So they're trying to cause these tensions with other countries. And in the meantime, mixed signals. Yesterday they were talking about, we're not going to get indefinite support. Now Trump is saying again, flipping, they need to release the prisoners of war and everything is going to stop. Nothing is clear. But what's for sure is the resistance side, regardless of any Israeli plan, and regardless of how far they go against the civilians and how much barbarism they conduct against the innocent civilians, it will always remain there. Yemen is proving that they're not stopping. The Palestinian resistance has a lot prepared for Israel with this new campaign declared. And if Israel also tries to have an even bigger escalation with any other country, which is a very high likelihood now, it will get an even bigger blow. Now they're talking about expanded operations in the Dimona nuclear facility. Today there was a report in Israel saying that there's accelerated rate of development in Dimona, although, Anyone who observes will know that if Israel has nuclear bombs, not everything is going to be in Dimona, but it's one of their nuclear sites, the only one that people know of. That indicates that it's Israel having an acceleration with developing more nuclear weapons, preparing for the next phase. They always talk about Iran. Although Iran is fully entitled to have a nuclear bomb, every country is entitled to have a nuclear bomb so long as nuclear weapons are a thing that other countries are being threatened with and used as leverage in this world. So long as force is the only language that's being spoken on the international scene. And international law is nothing but ink on paper. But with this level of hypocrisy in relation to talks about the nuclear programs and who can and who can't have a nuclear program, Israel is admitting to accelerate its nuclear site now, nuclear development, when they're committing a genocide. Why is no one talking about that? Why is no one even talking at all about their nuclear capabilities? Why is no one talking about now about the fact that it was an Israeli who exposed Israel's nuclear program? Israeli prime ministers had slips, Olmert once, with the fact that they have a nuclear weapon. And they're committing a genocide. Isn't that a risk? Don't you view that as a risk for all of those worried about nuclear war and talk about the potential of nuclear war? Stop them before it's too late, before they actually use a nuclear bomb and we reach a point of no return.